I committed adultery. I did these things.
Don't ask me things like that.
Just a normal kid.
You're a normal kid who killed your parents.
Michael Jackson, adored by his fans, mocked by the press.
More popular than ever, also more weird than ever.
He was the perfect target.
He shared his pain with Barbara Walters.
How do you feel when they call you Wacko
Wacko Jacko. I have a heart and I have feelings. I feel that.
And took on the tabloids.
That is garbage. Don't buy it. Don't buy into it and don't believe it.
Now, his nephew and brother tell Barbara the real story behind his comeback tour.
His kids never saw him perform, and he wanted them to see what their dad can do.
And share their intimate memories with Barbara.
What did you know? What did you think?
I was going to hear the worst news in the world.
On Barbara Walters Presents.
Michael Jackson was one of the most famous and controversial people in the world. He was fascinating and a mystery. From the beginning, he was more talented than it seemed possible for a child to be. As he grew, he became a puzzle of contradictions that resisted easy solutions. He was a master showman and a sensitive recluse, a source of pride for African Americans who changed all his most visibly black features. A person who yearned for innocence, but there were those who said he destroyed it. He created his own myth, and it devoured him. How could someone known by millions remain an enigma even beyond the grave? Who was Michael Jackson? What drove him? What really killed him? Who was the real Michael Jackson? Gary, Indiana, Michael Jackson's home, was a tough, racially segregated, working-class city dominated by steel mills. Michael was born in 1958, the seventh of 9 children. His father, Joe, operated a crane at a steel plant, and his mother, Catherine, a Jehovah's Witness, worked part-time at Sears. Music was always part of the Jackson family life. I recently interviewed Tito Jackson, Michael's older brother, who took me through the beginnings of the Jackson 5. Tito, how did the Jackson 5 get started?
My father had just come home from a long day's work, and he'd be telling us, be quiet, hold it down in there, I'm trying to get some rest or whatever. My mother would say to him, Joe, you need to listen to them.
Huh.
I think they have some talent. I think they can sing. My father said, them boys can't sing. Kate, those boys can't sing. Joe, listen to him. He heard us sing. He immediately took his next paycheck and bought everything. Microphones, amps, guitars.
Michael and Marlon, the 2 youngest, were not originally part of the band.
Michael and Marlon were just little bitty babies. And we'll tell them, get out the room. You're too young to be in the group. You're too young. You're too young. Michael performed one day at this elementary school, and his performance was so brilliant. We were looking at each other going like, is that him? We couldn't believe it was our brother.
One of us? Yeah.
We never knew he could sing like that.
Huh.
We rushed him home and told him, of course, you're in the group. Can I be in the group? Yeah, you're in the group, Mike. You in the group. You too, Marlon. You too.
Joe Jackson had always wanted to be a professional musician. He had hoped his own talent would pull the family out of poverty, but it hadn't.
As his sons grew older and he became more and more desperate to get out of the ghetto, to get out of the steel mill, to make more money, he decided to drive them. Every day after school, they were playing their instruments in the living room, and they were learning dance steps and figuring out what songs to play. And that's when he kind of transferred all that ambition that he had onto his sons.
So Joe quit his job to work full-time, managing his son's band. The band began to tour. That's an unusual life for children.
We did a lot of talent shows, and we did weddings and mall openings and nightclubs. They were paying more than $10. We were doing it.
Audiences loved them so much they threw money at their feet.
We would do our whole show, and people would throw out money, just gauze them. We make like $300 on the floor and change, and make 15, from the house.
Over the next few years, they began to play bigger venues. like the Regal in Chicago and the Apollo in New York, opening for famous acts. It was a musical education for young Michael.
I used to love to, watch everybody on stage, James Brown, Jackie Wilson. I've learned so much from all those greats.
If you look at those early moves that he was doing when he was 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 10 or 11 years old, they were very sophisticated moves. He could do things that James Brown was doing.
When Michael was 11, the Jackson 5 auditioned for Motown Records. In the 90s, when I sat down years later with Berry Gordy, the head of Motown, he told me he had noticed something special about Michael from the start.
Tell me about the first time you saw these kids.
Well, they came in to audition for me. This kid, he had a knowingness about him that the other kids didn't seem to have. He never took his eyes off me. One of the kids said, well, are you going to sign us? And Michael sort of smiled like, of course he's going to sign us. Of course.
In December 1969, Motown launched them nationally with an appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show that made the Jackson 5 instant stars.
Oh, baby, give me one more chance. Won't you please let me back to your heart?
Suzanne DePass, Gordy's creative assistant then, was amazed at their instant popularity.
It absolutely went from complete anonymity to total celebrity in one beat. The first time we got off the plane in Philadelphia for their first concert, they got mobbed, and it never changed. That was pretty profound for those days because there had not yet been, I don't think, a young black group that had created what was tantamount to Beatlemania.
Once you signed with Motown, you were very popular. The fans mobbed you, yes? What was that like for little kids?
It was fun, but it was very scary. We always had to plan a getaway. When we arrived at the airport, there'd be thousands and thousands of fans. The security would pick up Michael and Marlon and just run with them.
It hurts to be mobbed. I mean, you feel like a noodle. One arm is this way and your neck's that way.
I feel like spaghetti.
Really, it really hurts. They just actually want any part of you, actually. They just grab your clothes, grab your body.
By 1970, the family had moved to a mansion in L.A. The band was touring constantly, putting out hits and raking in money.
The press and the fans recognized Michael more and more, and it became a disproportionate kind of worship for him, and interest in him, and obsession with the little one.
Child stars they're in such a strange position because in their real lives, they're often playing the adult. They're the breadwinner of the family, often. They have an unheard of power, in a way, in the family, and yet they're at the service of the family. Michael had to do what his father ordered.
Joe Jackson was a strict and controlling figure in Michael's life.
The rules, they must be followed to the fullest extent. We always teach against the big head because it makes a child think that he's better and can't nobody tell him anything, and so keep him under control.
He beat his sons. I mean, he was physically abusive towards Michael in particular.
If he hit me, I would hit it back, which was terrible. And I would run around the house and hide and all that stuff. But I would really get it more than anybody.
Your father has said that he was tough on you kids. He admitted that there were whippings. Some people felt that he was abusive.
We were brought up in a place that wasn't the nicest place in America. There was gangs, violence, and everything else. So
you didn't feel that your father was abusive, was too tough?
Not at all. When a kid,
no kidding, really? Because that's the
story. Back then, it was something that parents did. You got abused, you get out of line. It's different today.